Hi, in this video I'm going to show you around a little known part of the Web Reports module called Content Server Application Management, or CSApps, as I'll refer to it in this video. This video is a companion to a couple of blogs I've written on this topic, which you can find on our website. I'm going to spend the next few minutes going through the various features in Content Server Applications using a real application so you can get a visual idea of how CSApps can help you when you're building web reports-based applications. As I mentioned in my last blog, the concept of an application could be one or more web reports, active views, workflows, forms, documents, all of which are collectively solving some kind of business problem. Technically, you could build a CS app without any web reports, but I think typically the best use of CS apps is for a web reports-based application or content intelligence application, as they're also known. To start with, I'm going to show you the standard interface in the classic content server admin pages. I also want to note here that the CSApps software is part of the Web Reports module, and as such, the functionality is pretty integral to those content server objects. As you can see here, we have a content server admin page. I've looked up the word applications, and I have an applications administration section. And under this heading, we have two links, one which takes you to a volume where the apps are typically stored, and the other one is applications management, which is what we're going to have a look at now. This is the applications management page, and as we look here, on your system, you probably won't have as many applications as this, but you will very likely see at least these three open text applications. They're all three related to records management. Overall, in this table, it shows all of the metadata, all of the options and the things you can do with these applications, and you have the ability to go in and look at all of the individual components of that application. On the right-hand side here, I've shown the CS Application Staging folder and the CS Applications folder. And you'll note that all three open text applications are here in the staging folder. And that will reflect, and if you look at the PO reports, has an option to install it. The OTRM reports exist both in staging and it exists in the applications. So an earlier version of it has already been installed. And as such, you'll see in this row here that it has an upgrade option. For completeness, I'll show you the other options here. Besides install and upgrade, for developers, you can rebuild an application with the latest versions of the objects. You can uninstall an application, which will take the application itself off and gives you the option of whether or not you want to delete the objects associated with that application. Delete not only does that, but will delete the app from the application staging as well if you want. And cleanup is used if you ever have an application that has some remnants or is not fully uninstalled for some reason. For any installed apps, you can also download and zip, and this is the equivalent to the transport in that all of the pieces of this application can be put into a zip file and used to install on another system. Finally, this page also has the ability to build a brand new application, and it allows from there for you to specify things like names, description, version numbers, finding the objects associated with the application, and setting a variety of other features that we're going to look at separately now. As you can tell, the UI for this classic interface is very limited and not particularly nice to look at. So for the remainder of this video, I'm going to look at these applications using the application analyzer, which also has the capability of looking at apps and examining the various components of those apps. We're going to look at two different apps, one a real app designed by OpenText, and a second one that I've engineered to show a few more features of CSApps. The OpenText records management reports I'm going to mount from here, which means that I'm basically looking at the application, including all of the objects that belong to it. First thing I'll show you here is this concept of a manifest file, and every app has a file like this. Besides the fact that it may also have an XML file with content in it, all of the different features and settings for a given app are shown in here. This particular one even includes some widget information. This is an undocumented feature, but CSApps do in fact support the ability to define widgets. This file isn't particularly useful other than for reference, and normally speaking, you're going to spend your time looking at this here. Firstly, we have all of the application metadata, including the name, the version, a description of it, and a couple of other points we'll look at in the next application. This particular one has a license associated with it as well. We have a summary of the objects, which can be useful, but of course we can see the actual objects over on the left-hand side in this case. We have support paths, any client software that's included in the system, and files that were uploaded into a particular folder on the system. In this case, they've defined that this particular app will only run when records management is installed, as well as web reports. These days that's probably redundant as they're normally on the system anyway, but it does allow you to create an app that won't malfunction if it's expecting some particular content server software. Under INI settings, we have the ability to automatically set any settings for the web reports INI section, as well as a couple of others. In this case, a very common setting is this max nested subweb reports for applications that need a setting that's higher than that. In this case, a setting of 500 is being provided. So that's automatically performed when the application is installed. The second application I want to show you is one that was based on a real app, but I've modified it slightly to make it easier to demonstrate some features. And the first notable quality about this app is that it was built on CS 22.3, and now the support files, JavaScript files, and so on are stored in the support asset volume and as such are visible as content server objects. In this particular model, we'll just have a quick look at the various things that come under these support objects. We have JavaScript files, we have images, and we have language files which have different labels. For the two different languages in this case, we can use labels inside the app which are translated automatically. And that's one of the features of using CSApps. Going back to the app itself, we can see all of the application metadata. And in this case, we have a web report that is specially defined that if this app was launched from a particular CSApp URL, this is the web report that would run to set up the application. We can also define a special web report as an initialization component, which would run during initialization. We have a summary of all the content server objects in this app, which could be useful. At the same time, we have all the objects visible to us anyway. Version changes shows us for all the objects in this app, any that have been changed since it was first installed. And in this case here, we see a few here, and if you're using the application analyzer, you can actually diff them as well to see what changed from when the app was first installed. In this particular application, we have some custom subtags. That's not uncommon, particularly with partner apps. And this is identifying some version anomalies in here. We also have module dependencies. In this case, this app requires web reports and ActiveView. It doesn't care what version. We have this same initialization setting as was used for OT records management. And having the same settings in multiple applications has no negative effect, though you could have collisions if two apps were trying to change to a different number. This app also depends on some ActiveView settings, so we make sure they're turned on. And that basically summarizes the main features that are visible when you install a CSApp. All the other features as far as building, rebuilding, installing, uninstalling, those are all things that are available too. But hopefully this gives you an idea of several of the features that are unique to CS applications.